Okay, today's going to be a fun one because nearly $1 billion are on the line in the UK, with Steam facing a lawsuit that is trying to take them to task for their alleged dominance of the PC gaming market. I mean, the dominance isn't really alleged. We all know that Steam absolutely is the number one place to do games on PC, and many of us have a fantastic time with it. But what they're alleging is that they are using that amazingly strong position in the market to control the wider sale of PC games. Now, this isn't the immediate end of the world for Gabe and friends. It's going to be a long time before we see action on this stuff. You know how it is with the legal system. But the question here is fairly real. Is Steam as a platform and a store too powerful for anyone to compete with? And while it won't get you antitrusted, what will make you more competitive is today's sponsor. Data's awesome, but sometimes it can mislead you, manipulate you. It's really important in today's world to have an amazing just foregrounding in data. And today we're going to do it with brilliant.org/Bellular News. They've relaunched some of their content and their platform that is all about learning by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data, and programming. And of course, you get 20% off an annual plan and a 30-day free trial by clicking my link. And I'm highlighting their relaunched data content, right? And I'm doing that because it covers concepts like probability, exploring data visually, predicting with probability, and modeling with multiple variables. Now that's important because those are real-world skills that are very important and helpful to know in your daily life. And what's key here is that rather than endless pages of theory, Brilliant is short quizzes with rich visualizations that make learning interactive and fun. It is vastly superior. One study showed a 6x improvement over passive learning via lecture videos, which I totally get. For me, though, it's the difference between being bored and not learning and being engaged and actually learning, and I think their new data courses are a perfect place to start. From the likes of Bayes' theorem to multiple linear regression, you'll be learning how to parse and visualize big data sets, and you'll even work with real data from real businesses like Starbucks, Twitter, Spotify, and others. Traditional school bored me to tears. I really wish Brilliant was there when I was younger, but they are here now, and you can check them out for free today at brilliant.org/Bellular News, 30-day free trial, and that link also gets you 20% off the annual sub. Okay, let's get into the lawsuit. So we first covered this on our newsletter loading screen whenever the suit broke, but it was in the midst of other bigger stories, and since then this one has really grown and just gained a lot of momentum. And we're also seeing plenty of mainstream coverage. Just look at this headline from the BBC, like, that's a pretty spicy headline. Now this all comes from a consumer advocate and digital rights campaigner, Vicky Shotbolt. I didn't know that Shotbolt was a surname. It definitely sounds like something from out of Warhammer 40k, so I approve of that. Pretty cool. But anyway, it's challenging Steam on the basis of a £656 million lawsuit based on the impact on 14 million UK gamers. If you turn that into USD, you're basically dealing with $1 billion. Now, what that would mean is 44 quid. £44 for every UK gamer if they win, providing, of course, you live in the UK and have bought games on Steam from the 5th of June 2018. And obviously, this would be a ginormous headache for Valve if the tribunal then asked them to change their policies or to stop operating in the UK. I mean, can I see a future where Valve don't operate in the UK? Absolutely not. But if it did get that far, it would be awkward for Valve, because if they did any changes and they tried to make them be UK specific, I've got to assume that would be an utter nightmare, and it would probably invite loads of regulation from other groups. And of course, if you watch our channel, you won't be surprised about that, because recently we talked about this going on in Poland and also in the USA, where basically their grip on a significant majority of the PC games market is, in those cases, argued to essentially lead to bad monopoly behavior. Now, you might think that saying grip is a pretty loaded word there. I suppose the reason why I would say grip is because in order to be on Steam, which is the vast majority of the PC market, you do relinquish your freedom to set prices on other storefronts. You basically do agree to a bunch of conditions there, and if you void those conditions, then obviously you voided a thing you agreed to, and you will rightly be yoked away from Steam. The thing is that Steam is so big that some of these bodies are then arguing that that constitutes, sort of like antitrust behavior. The other thing they're getting some flack for is policies against selling DLC on third-party stores. So that's the kind of thing that's going on. Now, of course, you're probably a little bit cynical. I'm a little bit cynical, and we both know that this wouldn't be happening if a lawyer couldn't make an absolute shitload of money. And the good news is that is happening, and that's why we've had similar stories before, or at least it's a little bit of a reason. Because in fact, this isn't even the first time that we've seen this type of lawsuit from this particular legal firm, though their last target, I think, is one that people will be a bit happier with. So it's being brought and funded by a group called Milberg London. Now, they are the legal firm that also took Sony to court back in 2022 for £5 billion. Which is a lot of pounds. Now, in that instance, their argument was that Sony's decision to retract permission for third-party stores to sell digital games while Sony held such dominance over the gaming console space because many more PS5s have been sold than Xboxes, and there's a humongous PS4 install base that still is, on PSN and pretty active. Basically, they were alleging that that sort of thing was anti-competitive. The idea being that now only PlayStation can sell digital PS5 games, and therefore they have complete control over the pricing. Basically, the idea being that you couldn't go on to like Green Man Gaming or somewhere like that and buy a digital PS5 game. So that's what they were arguing there. So that would obviously be spicy if it fully went forward. Now, the tribunal, they've not decided fully whether that's the case or not, but they do think that there's enough merit in the argument to justify a court hearing after PlayStation failed to have it be dismissed. So the good news is, lawyers on one side are going to earn their keep, and Sony's lawyers are also going to earn their keep. The system works. What about Steam then? How can Steam be anti-consumer, even though audiences absolutely love Steam? I mean, when you think about monopoly practices, it generally is sort of evil, bigwigs, and a case where the consumer absolutely feels like they're losing out because there is not enough competition in the market. So how is it then that we all love Steam so much that it honestly is such a fantastic product in so many ways, yet they can potentially find themselves getting into trouble in this sort of way? What all comes down to is a very, very simple thing, right? The marketplace of consumers and then the individual feelings of those consumers. And that's why I think having really good PR is important, because if you've got good PR, you can absolutely get away with more before you properly get in trouble. And I suppose in the case of Steam, it primarily has just been more and more and more success because they do offer an excellent product to pretty much everybody involved. And by offering such a good product, from the time that they started offering it, like way back with Half-Life 2, you can absolutely argue that they did a really amazing job in, well, helping against piracy, solving the service problem, right? By making PC gaming something that just feels far more accessible and easy to do for the average person. That's really good for PC as a platform, and it's actually a way where PC over time was able to compete a little bit more against the simplicity of consoles. And what has that success then led to? Well, it's led to the handheld market for PC also kind of exploding. Yes, Valve have obviously got a lot of power there, but they have also done a hell of a lot of work to create that market. So let's jump in. Why would any regulator want to step in here? Because to the majority of the audience, the customers, Valve are great and Steam is an amazing platform. So why would people take an issue with that? Well, back in 2013, Valve was estimated to hold about a 75% share of the PC market. And then with the Epic Games Store case, we found out that at least per Epic Games' own admission, Steam has about 85% of the market. And to be clear, that is the market by revenue. So that's absolutely dominant, and over time it has grown stronger and stronger and stronger. Of course, that's hardly a surprise to most of us. EA went to Steam. Microsoft are putting their things on Steam. At the end of the day, loads of groups tried to do their thing away from Steam where they wouldn't have to give 30% to Gabe, and most of those endeavors failed. So Steam is very likely to be continually the majority of the PC game space. I don't think any of us can see that changing in a very substantial way, say within the next decade. This is not a controversial thing, and there's the likes of GOG and Itch. I think those are both fantastic, but they are not even approaching a fraction of the numbers that Steam produces. And we all feel this in how we consume games. Take Kingdom Hearts. That may as well have not been on PC until it arrived in Steam, because yes, it had been on the Epic Store for ages. I mean, basically, the Epic Games Store is an absolute black hole. It is a total void of marketing. And, I mean, it's basically common knowledge that unless you're getting a bunch of money from them, or you've got a massive inbuilt audience, you'll just be sacrificing sales if you're exclusive on Epic. Absolutely. So what those numbers show is that basically PC gaming and Steam are almost the same thing. And that means that when one player has got such a significant stake in the market, well, that's literally the point of regulators. That is why regulators exist, because guess what? If you have absolutely humongous control in the market and people basically can't really compete against you, and you have a whole bunch of terms, say those pricing things, that make it harder for people to compete against you, well, that does actually lead to less competition. Yes, there is less competition in the PC game space. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, just look at Epic. Well, Epic basically kind of failed in many ways, and that was with them pumping absolutely ghastly amounts of money into the whole shindig. So this is a pretty legit case where a regulator would be interested. The thing is that the very dominant platform just happens to be one that provides a fantastic experience for users. And that's why people are not up in arms about this. Now, the thing with Valve is they do have a major thing in their favor that PlayStation actually doesn't, right? And again, that's relevant because this is same jurisdiction being done by the same law firm. So that is basically that Valve let developers sell keys on other stores. And there is no activation fee, right, to use that key on Steam. There's no key generation fee, right? So if you sell 100,000 games on Steam and you sell 10,000 off of Steam, well, Valve makes absolutely no money from the 10,000 that you sold off of Steam. I think from Valve's perspective, they just want people to be using Steam, generally speaking, which means there'll be a higher chance of them obviously buying more games on the platform. So even though it's generous, it does play to Valve's advantage, both because it does help to make their platform stronger, but also it would help them out against regulators. But it is also just a really good thing. Now, the way it works is you can get up to 5,000 keys by default at launch, and then you can basically request that Steam generates more keys. And basically, that's all pretty fair and good. Now let's take a look at the publicly available terms for distributing Steam keys off-platform, and let's find where the complaint is. So, I'm going to read it. You should use Steam keys to sell your game on other stores in a similar way to how you sell your game in Steam. Underlined, right? So this is the important bit. It is important that you don't give Steam customers a worse deal than Steam key purchasers. It's okay to run a discount for Steam keys on different stores at different times as long as you plan to give a comparable offer to Steam customers within a reasonable amount of time. So that's the rule, and then this is the consequence. If you request an extreme number of keys and you are not offering Steam customers a comparable deal, or if your sole business is selling Steam keys and not offering value to Steam customers, your request may be denied and you may lose the privilege to request keys. So effectively there, Valve are telling developers that Steam must price match any listings for Steam keys on a different store. If you do not do that within a reasonable amount of time, in Valve's opinion, then they can refuse to issue you more keys. And that's what the regulators are trying to investigate here. The idea from their perspective is that Valve are stifling competition by dictating other people's store prices and sales options for DLC, and thus are limiting customer choice. Of course, the genius thing from Valve's point of view is they present this as protecting their customers, right? They don't want the 75% of PC gamers on Steam, or 85% by revenue, as Tim Sweeney puts it. They don't want those people to get a worse deal by staying on their platform to do their purchase. They're fine with devs generating off-store keys because those can really act as loss leaders and they get people into the Steam ecosystem, so that is a very positive thing, and it means more interest to a game in general. That means more sales, and of course more sales that will, because they are in a strong market position, predominantly be on their store with their 30% cut. So it all lines up brilliantly for Valve. Now, from the point of view of skeptics, what these regulators and lawsuits are demanding is that Steam allows developers to effectively cheat users who only buy games in Steam, while also still keeping Steam as a platform for their game, which they think is an unreasonable thing, because it's basically wanting to have all of the benefits of being on Steam while avoiding their 30% cut. And I think that's the bit where it gets interesting to me, because for most of us, the idea of maybe an indie game developer selling a cheaper version of a key on their own storefront as a sort of like a direct fan funding thing. I mean, even we, for the Pale Beyond, got lots of comments, people saying, hey, can I buy this from you directly so that, there's not like a cut going to a middleman? In that case, our response was, actually, the best way you can help us out is actually to buy the game on Steam, and yes, to give Gabe that 30% cut. The reason being, the more success success we see in Steam, the more Steam will promote our game and the more it will be in discoverability. So it's quite funny where in that sense you could totally see as a dev the idea of selling keys on your own site for less money as a direct fan support thing, which of course Valve thinks is unreasonable because it's basically them wanting to have all of the benefits of Steam, and there are a great many benefits, right? Steam will increase your revenue. That's basically facts. If your game has, is giving Valve good signals, if people are writing reviews for your game, it will be shown off in more places. And whenever there is a sale on Steam, like, listen, again, with us doing Pale Beyond, like, I can go into the Steam backend and you just see Steam summer sale, and the line just goes from flat to right up to the top. That's the way that it works. That is a large value, so you can totally see how it would be a little bit unreasonable to just have all the benefits of Steam, but then at every opportunity try to circumvent them getting their side of the deal. But of course, that's thinking about it from maybe an indie dev perspective, maybe from a customer's perspective. I mean, imagine if a AAA company wanted to basically play the numbers fun here and, try to kind of cajole their way into getting a better deal. Funnily enough, Valve has actually aligned the incentives properly there, because you do actually drop down to, I believe, a 20% cut going to Gabe if you are above $50 million in revenue. So that is a really, really good incentive for those very large publishers to actually put sales on Steam, because it will eventually get them a better cut. Now, that's very much me talking about this from the perspective of it being a store, but there are other things that could crop up here, because it is a platform. In fact, it is the platform for PC gaming. It's got forums, it's got the workshop, discovery tools, messaging services, and dozens of other features, even the Steam Deck integration stuff that's absolutely fantastic. They have had just over 2 decades to make it the amazing platform that it is today, very much contrasting with the mandatory launcher for Half-Life 2 that it started off as. And that's what brings us to the questions that both defenders of Steam and the regulators are asking. Why would anybody buy a PC game anywhere else than Steam? And how does actual competition exist in PC gaming stores if that is the case? As a customer, regardless of where you buy it, you're still wanting a Steam key regardless, because that's where your library is. And barring grey market keys, anything that is, following the rules is not going to be cheaper than it is being sold on Steam without Valve being able to revoke the developer's ability to generate new Steam keys. And that then means, why not just buy it using Steam in the first place, where it's all very easy and convenient? Now, for some other stores, there are workarounds. Take Green Man Gaming. They have got an XP-based additional discount system. Of course, that's not the developer violating their agreement. That is Green Man Gaming making their store look appealing, because they are willing to eat some of the cost by doing that discount system. Now, sure, they can offer discounts at different times, but again, Steam runs dozens of sales a year, so, just wait and you will be price matching eventually. And as we've seen, if a game is not activating on Steam, 75% of the audience don't care. We know it with the Epic Games Store, Itch, and GOG. Combined, they are a fraction of Steam. So if you want to sell in the primary market, you have got to sign up to all of their rules and policies, even, yes, giving some control on stores or even your own website, and that's where the antitrust concerns come in. A combination of both platform and store is the key here. Now, Steam does an amazing job with audiences. For competition regulators in an economic market, they basically can't take the opinion that one company, just because it is benevolent, isn't immune to competition, especially when they control the biggest store in the market and the platform by which the majority of people access that market. That is basically the argument that will be made here to try and get a very, very large pound of flesh out of Steam. And it's not dissimilar to a position that Apple and Google have found themselves in. And certainly, if you're a user of the iPhone and you have USB-C in your iPhone and you think it's handy that you can use one cable for basically everything, well, actually, that's anti-competition stuff. If you're in the EU, your iPhone literally is a product that has got more value. Now, they may be doing some things with Apple Intelligence and new features, basically not bringing them to the EU, which a lot of people would say is a form of malicious compliance. But basically, the point is, if the regulations are good enough, then, there can be a little bit more competition. That's why we are seeing the likes of AltStore appear on iOS. That's why people are able to load up their emulators on their iPhones. So certainly, if you're sitting there with all your favorite Nintendo DS games, you probably look at the EU and think, oh man, what do I do? Because I really like this emulator, but man, GDPR is a pain in the ass and the Chrome extensions to deal with it are not good enough. Now, it's not about a regulator sweeping in and just killing Gabe somehow. Again, that would be hard. He does have a marvelous collection of knives that we do enjoy showcasing on our thumbnails. No, the point is changing things to allow for new opportunities. That's why having alternative app stores with, of course, different payment processors, why that is, the thing on Apple and Google that they're currently going for. So it's not them trying to dismantle Valve or force them to give audiences a worse deal or to punish Valve for putting in 20 years of good work. That's literally not what they care about, because that's not their point. It is them being challenged to review the PC gaming market and to ask if Steam are immune to competition because they're at the top of the market, both as a store and a platform, and whether any other store can even start to compete and potentially offer a better deal to audiences. And I think that last bit, a better deal to audiences, is the bit that is challenging, because yes, you can offer a better deal for your game to audiences on PC. Asterisks, you just won't be able to sell it in Steam. Now, this lawsuit is going nowhere fast. The PlayStation one happened in 2022, and it's only just approaching its first actual hearing now that we're in June 2024. But again, it's regulators, and they're not really concerned about the short term. That kind of thing is fine. It is just going to trundle on and on and on. Maybe something will come out of it. I mean, we're so used to being so goddamn jaded about all of this stuff, which I totally understand. But again, you take a look at some of the times that Microsoft has properly been snapped by the EU. Like early 2000s, wasn't it? Microsoft got a fairly gargantuan fine. Of course, there's stuff with Google and Apple that basically does mean that users will be getting more control over the hardware that they purchased. I think that's fundamentally a good thing. It's a question, though, of how will it all sort of shake down here with Steam. And because I can't go into the future, I can't tell you that. I don't know. But man, wouldn't it be crazy in an environment where we're seeing the likes of Apple, where we are seeing really big players actually get in a sticky situation? It's not impossible, especially when across the States, in Poland, in the UK, and likely as months go on, other regions, similar cases are cropping up. So I think that very much means Valve's legal department has probably been gearing up for this battle for a long-ass time, because absolutely, if you think about large-scale strategic risk for Valve, this kind of thing is going to be easily in the top 3. Okay, that's it from me. Let me know what you think. Thanks to today's sponsor for helping to fund our team. And with that being said, see you later.